Well, hello. Hello. Welcome to the Hive Society. Glad you're here. Today, we're going to be having a great conversation around difficult conversations. We have those difficult conversations. Okay, I'll give everybody a moment to join me here. Hello, Facebook. Hello, YouTube, Instagram. Hello to you all. Okay, so today we're talking about difficult conversations and having difficult conversations. You know, those conversations, let me tell you, like, I just really want to have a discussion, about, we all face challenges to navigate those difficult conversations, right? We all are facing, this conversation and, this over here. And we can have that feeling of being uneasy, or a lot of times what happens is most people will avoid these critical discussions that we need to have, right? Um, and really what I want to do is kind of get you past that feeling of that, it's hard to do it. Look, nobody said it has to be easy, but it's necessary in most cases. And so I really just wanted to have that discussion with you today and just talk about the how to have them with boldness, with authority, with like, look, we need to resolve this, right? And still have empathy for the situation, for the people involved, for the circumstance, and how you can go from active listening to framing your conversations very constructively, so that it's not something that people have to defend themselves against, or they feel like they're being attacked. Really, I really wanted to just support you in finding some practical strategies to turn them into discussions, right? Of understanding and connection versus turning them into, conversations of, like in my case, I could say, because I'm the boss and because I said so. Like, that's not even any time that any place that I come from. If I were to say something like that, which I don't, it's all out of fun and play, right? Like, because I'm the boss, stuff like that. But not during a difficult conversation. There's a time and place to play, and that's not when it is. So I really just wanted to have that conversation with you about those difficult conversations. Those, what are they, and why do we need to have them, and how to have them so that it's a win-win. Okay. And I don't mean it's everybody's going to win with the outcome, but it just means that the conversation is about moving forward. Like, I have a policy in my company here, in the corporation, and the policy for my employees is, and I don't mean it's a full written out policy, but we have a context here that is believe or leave. Believe in the vision, the mission, and the values of our company, or why are you even here? If you can't believe in those things, if you can't believe that's what we're moving towards, then it's probably a good time for you to leave, right? And in some cases, it as a manager, as a owner and things like that, is sometimes we have to let people go because they don't believe in our vision, our mission, our values. They don't believe in following the policies and procedures and guidelines that are there because of state requirements, federal requirements, because of safety requirements and things like that. And so you can leave by choice, or we can help you leave. But we have this, and it's not always an easy conversation to have with anybody when they're stuck in that space. Like, look, I really just want to move you forward, and obviously this isn't the right fit for you to be at our company because you don't want to follow these procedures, or because XYZ. And so, nobody said it's an easy conversation. Nobody likes to fire people, and if they tell you they do, then they're crazy butts and need to get a new job anyway. Okay. Like, that's not the come from. And so I just really want you to know and understand that you're going to have difficult conversations, whether it be with a vendor, right? I got proposal for business cards, right? And in that proposal, what I did is I'm like, I looked at everything, we looked at it all, everything matched. I signed the proposal, I then the business cards were done, and then I signed off on the completion of the business cards and getting that done. And then when it came time to pay, the bill was different than what I originally had approved. And they didn't talk to me about, why there was going to be a difference. And so I had to have that difficult conversation. You see, having a conversation with a vendor, hey, tell me what's going on. Like, so when you think about difficult conversations, right? One of the things that you have to do is have a conversation of like, what happened, right? It's the what happened conversation. Tell me what happened that caused the price to change, right? And then they tell me, and I was like, that kind of feels a little bit like bait and switch. Like, this is what you said, this is what we agreed upon, this is what you did. And then you're telling me that, oh, but the price was really different for this. It kind of feels like a bait and switch situation. And, she apologized for that. And, I ended up paying the price that they asked. And then when it came to, renewing, I got a new vendor to do business cards, right? Like it just didn't feel right. But I had the conversation. I could see her way. I could have empathy for the situation. I'm not looking for them to lose money, but at the same time, da 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 da. We moved on, right? So there's different kinds of conversations when it's time to come up with a difficult conversation that you have to have. Is like one is the what happened conversation. Like, tell me what happened. What got us here? Right? Help me understand, right? I've been in conversations when situations happen. I said, hey, can you help me understand how I want to answer? Right? Because they know that what they did was probably not the right thing, and nobody wants to get called out on doing the wrong thing. I mean, let's be real, right? But, I pushed a little further. Hey, I'm following up. I still don't know what happened with this, right? I really need to have a conversation. And then when it's all said and done, like all I wanted was understanding, but you escalated it because you didn't want to respond. Or, it got escalated because, right? So if somebody's trying to have a difficult conversation with you, that's a clue. Have the conversation, right? And all you have to do is, you know what? Can I look into this? I hear you. And, I just need to get all the facts so that now that you've given me your side, do you mind if I put together my side and let's recall? Let's get together and have another call, right? Sometimes you can just say, hold on, I need all the facts. What happens, not everybody's like me, right? Like I want all the deets. Give me the deets. If you just give me the deets, I can figure things out, right? But not everybody wants the deets. Some people just want to move forward. Some people just want to, you know, just like let it be resolved. Some people do not. They will try to avoid conflict at all costs. The problem is it's costing you a lot. And I don't want conflicts to cost you a lot, cost you friendships, cost you business relationships, cost you money, right? Cost you a reputation, cost your integrity because you just don't want to have those conversations. What I want you to do is I want you to learn how to have the conversations in such a way that when you get off, you're like, oh, that really sucked. But you know what? It was better that to get this taken care of now instead of letting it fill up my headspace at night, keeping me awake at night because I know I have to have this conversation and I don't want to have this conversation, right? Just get it over and done with. It's the rip the band-aid off kind of thing, right? It's just do it. And you can start with, hey, what happened? You know what? I don't know the answer to this. Can I look into that and get back to you? And then actually do follow up, right? It could be maybe that the difficult conversation is about a feeling, right? My feelings were hurt. And people think, oh, Kimberly, you're bold. Your feelings never get hurt. My feelings get hurt all the time. I just don't wear it on my sleeve. And instead, I just go, you know what? This is how I felt with that. Is that what you were trying to accomplish? Is that how you wanted me to feel? Right? Is if you can't respond with that, how? So my husband and I in our relationship, for example, my husband he has a degree in sarcasm. Let me just put it that way. Actually, and that statement came because one day my daughter was sitting on the couch and she just looked around and her brothers and her dad and she just looked and said, "You know, you have to have a degree in sarcasm just to be in this family." And she was like so right on. Like I use that statement a lot now, right? Right? But sometimes my husband would say stuff and it just really hurt. And I was like, ouch, you know? And so that became our code word. He would say, you know, some of the stuff is like he says it, and I'm just like, "Psh, whatever, just move on. Right? Just go away. Leave me alone. Like, you, yeah, go away. So, right. And it's just like he'll say stuff, and I'm just like, oh, really? Like dad jokes. Come on. Right? But then there's sometimes when he'll say something and he's just saying it off the cuff or, you know, something like that. And I just look at him direct eye to eye and I say, ouch. And he's like, what? Like, how did that hurt? Let me explain. And then I just say, when you said this, this is how I heard it. And I explain it to him. And he's like, oh, well, that's not what I want for you. And I'm like, okay, so could you not say that again, please? Right? But nowadays, if you know, okay, some little ones they bite, all right, here and there. People will say stuff. Look, people have called me names from one up one side and down the other, right? It doesn't mean that I have to hold on to it. It doesn't mean that all of them hurt, and it doesn't mean that some of them don't hurt. It just means that I'm ready to move on. We once had an employee who um she was very upset with her supervisor. She came to me and was complaining about how her supervisor said this and how they talked to her and how she didn't appreciate their tone and all these things. And I said, okay. And I listened. And then I said to her, I said, you know, and the whole process was is she had her feelings hurt, right? And so I said, well, how can we move forward so that we can get you back to work and taking care of the things that you know, is really important for moving the company forward and doing what the client needs. You know, how I can have empathy, I can understand and relate to her on how she felt in that situation. And then she, you know, proceeded to tell me how we can move forward. And I said, okay, and at any point did you feel that the supervisor you know, was against you? Did you feel like they were just trying to get you to do this? Is this what they were trying to get you to do? And now you can see why it's important to do? And she's like, yes. And I was like, okay. So we resolved it. She said she's committed to going out, doing the things that she needed to do. She just wasn't following through on stuff. And her supervisor, you know, just kind of like called her out on it. And she didn't like that. And she didn't like how it made her feel and all of that. So about 2 weeks later, she came in and she said to me, "You didn't tell me." And I said, "I didn't tell you what?" She said, "You didn't tell me that he was your husband." And I said, "But did I need to?" She said, "No, but you let me call him every name in the book." And trust me, she did. She swore, she cussed him out, she called him all kinds of names, right? And a lot of people go, "Oh, if they were talking about my man, it would be like a throwdown." And I'm like, no, I can listen and have empathy for the situation in which she felt, but I didn't have to take on her energy. Do you see the difference? I can listen and have a difficult conversation with somebody without taking on their energy because my goal in the long run is to make sure that we end up doing the right thing. Right? So she said, "You didn't tell me he was your husband." And I said, "Well, were we able to resolve it without you understanding that?" She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Are you able to now have conversations with him where you guys have an understanding?" She's like, "Yeah." But if it were my man, like, and you had called my man all those names, I probably would have kicked your butt. And I said, "Well, you would have to try." Right? So having empathy and understanding that you're having a conversation, right, is really just about understanding where their feelings are and then what's the end result? What is it that wants to be accomplished? Is it your goal to hurt their feelings even more? Is it your goal to tell them like they don't matter and who cares? Right? I don't think so. And so because I don't think so, right? Like it's just important to really just make sure that you're paying attention to what's the whole point of having this conversation. You have to know what the point is. You do. You have to know what the point is in order for you to move forward. It's just that simple. Or why are you doing it, right? Look, you're there to have a conversation. You have to determine what the purpose is of the conversation. Make sure that the goal is to reach that purpose, right? And you have to adopt the right approach. You have to think about what is the right approach. Is it a tell me what happened kind of conversation, or look, when this happened, this is how I felt kind of conversation, right? Or, let's identify what the situation is. All right. Why are we here? Right? So you got to come at it from like, what's that purpose? Why are we here? How do I get past my feelings, or what happened kind of conversations, right? And recognize that you may get emotional, right? It's a difficult conversation. Look, I still get butterflies in my stomach if I have to go to some kind of a hearing. I don't like it, right? It's a difficult thing for me, right? I still have, get butterflies in my stomach if I have to terminate somebody. Even though I know it's the right thing to do, right? It doesn't make it any easier to do the right thing. It just is difficult. So you have to recognize where your emotional state. And then like, where are you coming from? And here's a little tip, think of a teeter totter, right? So here's my ruler, right? And it's a little teeter totter and it goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, right? Well, let's just imagine for a second that this side over here is your emotions, right? And this side over here is your intellect, right? Your smarts, your cognitive ability. That's all over here. If I'm on a teeter totter and my emotions are high, where is my intellect? It's down at the bottom, right? If, however, I'm too analytical and too smart and I want to talk to you about all the details and everything else, and I haven't even heard your feelings, right? Where's my feelings at? They're at the bottom. So there's a constant teeter-totter effect with emotions and intellect, right? So when you're having difficult conversations, you have to know where your emotional state is so that you can make sure that you're making the right decisions and saying the right things on the intellectual level. So it has to be that balance. And then challenge your own assumptions and beliefs, right? Challenge what you believe, because just because you believe something doesn't mean that they believe it also. So be willing to hear what their belief is. Look, I can take just about any word in the dictionary and I can present it to people and ask 10 people, what does this word mean to you? And all 10 people are going to say something a little bit different. So if that's the case, you got to be willing to challenge your beliefs, challenge your assumptions, challenge what you think you know, and that your expectation that they know the same thing. We were all raised differently. There is no such thing as common sense. I really don't believe that there is. And the reason I don't believe that there's such thing as common sense is because you were not raised the same way that I was. You might have been in the same community, you might even have been in the same household, but you were raised differently than I was. So what's common to me is not necessarily common to you. So I can't sit there and go, well, it's common sense. No, tell me what you believe. Let me share what I believe and let's find our common ground. That's a completely different space. So in difficult conversations, those are the things that you want to do. You want to listen. You want to actively listen to people. And what actively listening to people means is that you're listening to them in such a way that you actually hear what they are saying. You hear the words behind what they're saying because you're not thinking about what you're going to say next. You're just totally and completely in with them, one-to-one, having this listening space for them so that you can actually hear what it is that they're saying. Look, in the art of negotiation, you have to know what it is that they're saying in order to negotiate against it. Well, in the art of in having difficult conversations, the same thing is you actually have to listen. If you're going to ask what happened, right? You have to hear what happened. If you're going to ask them how they feel, then you need to hear how they feel. If you want to identify what the situation is, you have to hear what the situation is. And I know that sounds basic, but in this day and age, with so much going on at such a fast pace and everything moving forward on that, I'm telling you, listen more, practice listening even better. So recognize and manage your own emotional state, listen to really hear what's happening, right? And then the other thing you want to do is provide an opportunity for them that when you give them information, if it's a difficult conversation, just like I said at the very beginning, sometimes people will say this and you go like, hey, can I take a minute to find out what the facts are on my side? Like, let me reconnect to that. Let me go and read my diary of, my daily diary of what I did for the day. Let me go and see what was actually said. Let me investigate it, right? So these are some investigative skills, right? Well, the same thing is you have to be willing if somebody says, can I take time and figure out what this is? And can we schedule another time to have this conversation? Give that opportunity to other people as well, right? And just be really open about the conversation because it really is important for you to have those conversations. Yeah, they're hard. They're hard because there's no level of agreement right now, right? We're both off in different directions. They say, you know, being in relationship with people can be easy if you're all thinking the same thing and doing the same thing. But imagine how boring that is, right? I don't know about you, but it can get very boring in that case. So you want to make sure that there's emotions, there's information, there's some fear, maybe there's some guilt, some apprehension, some things that are behind all of that. And what you want to do is just make sure, right, that you're in the right space. That maybe if your fear's coming up, you're getting defensive. And what you need to go is like, hold on, I'm an adult. I can handle this, right? Maybe you feel guilty because you know you mucked it up, but you don't want to admit you mucked it up because God forbid we should admit we do anything wrong in this world. We should all be perfect, right? But the reality is that no matter what it is for you, someone's got to take the first step, or you lose the relationships, you lose the client, you lose the reputation, you lose your integrity in it all. Be willing to have the tough conversations. Okay. Let's see. Anything left I want to add to that? Is, you know what? Here's some things is like that um don't assume that they know why you're mad, or don't assume that you know why that they're mad, right? Ask the questions. Like, what's going on? Why is this bothering you so much? What's going on, right? And the other thing is I'm talking about if you don't have the conversations, right? Then what you can do is you can lose your reputation, you can lose your integrity. Well, don't challenge somebody else's reputation. Don't challenge their character. Don't challenge their integrity in it, right? Ask them. Ask them what's going on, right? And the other thing that I would put out there of kind of what not to do is don't exaggerate. Look, if you are arguing over the size of a fish, right? Stop it. Don't exaggerate about the problem. Well, you do it all the time. No, you've done it several times. You've done it multiple times. And I just want to make sure it doesn't happen again, right? Don't exaggerate. Don't say always. Don't use that space to kind of belittle somebody or tell them, something. Don't exaggerate on it. It's not a good thing to do. Okay. And the other thing is like, don't say, look, it's not personal. It is personal. You're in relationship some way or another with another human being. That's why you're having a difficult conversation. It's personal. Now, it might be about business. It might be about money. It might be about other stuff, but we're personable people. Okay. So don't say it's not personal. Just say, this is the business. You could say something like, you know, this is my business policy. So I cannot take away from the business policy. That's different than saying, look, it's not personal. It's just business. It is personal. So just make sure that you don't do that. So again, just to remind you, have that conversation, be willing to have it. Don't assume you know anything. Make sure that you're getting all the details, you're asking questions, right? That you're speaking directly to that person. Sometimes you have to soften your voice. A lot of times people just automatically assume I'm just a like go, go, go kind of person, but sometimes I'm not. I really try to match the voice of the other person. I try to connect with them at that level. And so you can too, right? Be a good listener. Yeah. And the other thing is stay focused on what the solution is, right? Because if you don't, then in the long run, you muck it all up. Okay. And the whole goal of having these, these hive society wisdom moments here from me, wisdom highlights, is to teach you how to not to muck it up a little bit better than what I did early on, right? Like I've been in business for over 30 years. I've had difficult conversations. I have messed them up. I had to learn how to do it better and better and better and better over the years. Well, what if you could just do it faster from the start? That's the whole purpose here, with these videos and these opportunities for you to just glean a little bit of my wisdom highlights. I say that I've earned every one of these gray hairs is a piece of wisdom that I've had to learn along the way in business and in relationship. So I have earned this crown of glory. So with that being said, I just want to thank you all. I want to thank you for attending and listening, and you know be willing to have those conversations. It's important, and I really want you to win. So, have a great week, and I look forward to seeing you next week. All right. Bye bye, y'all.